feel free to ask us anything. Yeah.
Okay, I'll shout. Hello, I'm Brian. I am founder of Recording Wise. We are an ICURe spin-off from Oxford. So we are developing an atomic scissors technology to degrade plastics back into solid material. My question was for Lisa, because we during the ICURe Exploit grant, the 300K grant, we were able to further develop our tech and kind of pivot it into really developing the tech, brought it into kind of closed-loop solutions to degrade waste plastic and then transform them into new plastic instead. My question is there possible ways that innovative can help us to reach the kind of, for example, local authorities around in the world or even in the UK, kind of at a higher level perspective? Because during ICURe, I reached out to 1,000 people, different people on LinkedIn. Normally, the people we get to speak to aren't necessarily the people who can kind of help us to accelerate the development. Rather, it may take a week or two to just even to reply to an email, things like that. Is there any ways that innovators can help?
So when you were working on the ICURe program, did you at all come across Business Connect?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you work with the Business Connect people or with the business growth, your business growth advisor? Yeah. And did they help you with some of those connections?
They were on the kind of lower level, kind of how to market your technology rather than kind of actually making connection. But okay. I suspect we were probably too early to make that connection back during ICURe as well.
So the answer, I think we should safely say, is yes, we can help with that sort of thing. We just need to put you in touch with the right people. And so, okay, so why don't you pick up with me afterwards and we will see how we can help you better engage with the ecosystem at the level you need to.
Thank you.
Yeah? Did you want to add?
To be sitting 2 doors down from Jan from Business Growth, you can sit.
I was wondering whether I should, suggest but he is there, he's too. So introduce yourself, Jan.
The other thing we're trying to do more and more of is work with local public sector partners and across government actually to buy the stuff that we are supporting our innovators in developing. So there's some opportunities.
Yeah. So that's a great question. Thank you very much. And as I said before, one of our roles is to link up the ecosystem, so we make these pathways much easier to cross across. Yeah.
Hi, sorry. James Baker from the University of Manchester, involved with commercialisation of graphene food materials. Some great examples of technology research in the UK. For me, really exciting to see the actual increase in activity around startups. They didn't talk much about scale-ups. So for me, it's a real challenge. We're actually losing some of our startups internationally. So we've got a potential graphene unicorn who's scaling up in Saudi Arabia and UAE, but we're not doing that here in the UK. So maybe if we can try and get some more joined up, it's not just the startup, it's how we go through that scale-up to get the investment and keep them in the UK.
I did mention a little bit at the end about looking at scale-up as well, and the fact that we're looking at continuous journeys. I think the emphasis here, because it's ICURe, is more around startup. But within we are committed, obviously, to looking at scale-up as well, because that is a massive part of what we need to do, is to build the similar types of propositions to support scale-up businesses. But I think the point I'd like to make is that we need to develop packages around specific segments. So that'd be startup, it'll be around scale-up. In essence, what we're trying to do is to help build pipelines of businesses towards growth, whether that's through from proof of concept, which you talked about with UKRI funding, right through from the ICURe program through our scale-up program, which sits within business growth, and also through our innovation finance mechanisms as well. So we're looking at a continuum, pathways to success, because ultimately what we're here to do is to drive growth in the economy. So yes, it's just not explicit here because of the nature of this type of event. So I hope that answers your question. Watch this space.
So scale-up is something we think a lot about. We actually raised our first growth fund just last year to start doing that. I think my take on this is it's been a bit of a chicken and egg, in the sense of if 5 or 10 years ago I had $1 billion deep tech scale-up funds to deploy in the UK, there wouldn't have been a lot of absolutely tier one opportunities to deploy that capital into. And sure enough, there weren't any $1 billion deep tech scale-up funds 10 years ago. Now we're in a very different situation, right? So some of the, I don't know, the eggs have hatched and the chickens are growing or whatever, how you say it. So, and we're starting to see the funds come. And I think to some degree it has to be organic. I mean, in the super early stage where the absolute amounts of capital are relatively modest, £1 million investment here or there, government intervention can make a big difference. When you're talking about probably what Mubadala's doing, you're writing $100 million checks and you want a multi-billion-dollar fund to do those. I can't really see, Innovate UK or BBB or someone massively moving the needle there. It's going to have to come from the private sector, and it is. So today, if we've got a company that we've backed through sort of seed through Series B, so maybe we've put 20 million in or something like that, and now it wants to raise 100, there's maybe a short list of 30 firms that I would go to for that check. And 10 years ago, none of them would have been British. Now maybe 5 are. And so it's still law of pretty small numbers, but I think, and they're doing quite well, actually. So I think, watch this space, and we need to keep pushing, but I'm optimistic.
So you say there's 5. What's your forecast for how this is going to grow? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. I'm trying to think about how to answer that. So, growth in the short term, what we're seeing in terms of the growth is foreign capital, but not just slightly funky Middle Eastern money, but European capital, US capital. I mean, that's a very positive sign, actually, that's coming in. In terms of, and they're probably going to be pan-European funds because that makes sense. So I'm just thinking, actually, we've got 2 deals in the market right now, and who have the investors been coming through? And they've been large pan-European funds. The Tibi scheme in France, for example, it set up a couple of funds that are now doing this kind of stuff. So I think it's a bit of all of the above.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, a bit of a loosey-goosey answer, but yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
I think maybe just take a couple more, and then we move on to the first one. You've been waiting patiently.
So I'm the founder of a startup called ICURe. We're based in Glasgow. What we do is we match students, the students have spoke about at the universities, and we match them to projects that are like proof of concept, and these students in the cooking labs and software engineering labs. So they've got loads of energy, they're very innovative, stimulated, and they know how to build these proof of concepts. So they come to the table with all these skills, and we pay them so they get a lot of work experience and they get to interact with customers. I suppose my question is, how much are you wanting to leverage that student talent through this new proof of concept program for Pathway and the tell you what we're doing in Glasgow? Being in this Pathway University, the stage gating process, one of these very early ideas to take them out of that crazy one where you've got an idea, but you don't have enough to actually go build it. We help them build that in the UK, but using the student talent.
That's fantastic.
The UK has got, like you said, some amazing
Yeah.
universities. The student talent curve is uncapped.
Yeah.
Do you want to answer?
I mean, let's talk, right? So what we see is, I mean, the typical sort of spin out that we're backing is you've got very small number, 1, 2, or 3 sort of senior founders. So that could be the professor or it could be the serial entrepreneur or something with the idea. But let's start with software. For one sort of guy who's got a brilliant idea for doing an AI next generation, you need 100 engineers to actually implement it and test it and as quickly as possible. And that kind of entrepreneurial student talent is perfect for that. And it's really hard to find. So, yeah.
AI startups with like 4 students that are, it's just like insane about this energy.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Do you want to say anything about the Talent and Skills Programme or about KTP?
I maybe follow up, but I think I haven't got a lot of time. Well, the other thing I was going to do is point to Alex Chase, back from ICURe commercialisation team, who's just waved a bit. Just proof of concept. Alex is running proof of concept on me. So
Brilliant.
Good. One over there, and then maybe a last
Hello. Hi, I'm Shrijan from Innovative Diagnostics. We're building rapid UTI diagnostic solutions. We started about 4 years ago, and this is a very similar question to him about the connection. So we're coming to a place where we are keen to look into new ideas, new researches. This is like a PD1 product one, what it will be product 2, 3, 4. And we've got this really nice sort of ecosystem or structure of how to take a diagnostic solution with the regulatory quality, all of the structure. Now, we've also moved out, so we started in Liverpool, now we're based in Bath, and I find it quite hard to connect with researchers on new ideas, because there are loads at the universities, and you guys have the right, cohort of those ideas. They could use what we have built, and we could use their help as well in, making new products. So is there a way ICURe can bring some of these previous spin-outs and leverage their learning, the new people who might be slightly scared, but also...
Of course, yeah.
You know,
You're going to fill this in on the QR code for me, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be absolutely brilliant. Peter, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure.
Because, I mean, ICURe is your product, so...
So I think it's a really important point
Yeah.
you raise, and it's something we've now started to actually think about, is how do we join up the dots between alumni as well as people coming through the programme. So one of the things for this year is that we're going to be looking at actually setting up some kind of structure for alumni to share what they've been doing, their journey, both in terms of technically, but also in the technology, but also how they can give back to the programme with the founders who are coming through. So it's really valid. But the other thing I think also is be useful is that one of the things we're doing, we're sort of revamping our website. So also we will be listing all the spin-outs that have come through with a sort of quick description of what they've done. And so again, we will facilitate, but also that people who come to the website can see what's been done. So that's our first stage of actually building connections within the ICURe community.
Yeah, and the offers would also be quite valuable, like people who are joining things like Discover and Explore, their information available too. Yeah, but yeah, that's brilliant. That would be great. Thanks.
So communities and networks are incredibly powerful, and it looks like we can do a lot to optimise that. So that's some great feedback. Thank you.
Just take last question there, then we can...
Hi, I'm Ross Brisby, University of Surrey. I've got a question for you, Andrew. What's stopping you from CIT from investing more in these early stage startups? And what I mean by that is, what are you seeing coming through the applications that you go, actually, I wish they had done this upstream before they came to us? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think there's two questions there, if I may. So one is what's the rate limiting step on our business? And then there's a second question around the, well, I wouldn't have started from here issue and what to do about that. And I wake up thinking about both of those questions most days. I think we are, goes back to my talk, we are mostly talent constrained. So the rate limiting step within my firm is having people who can source, diligence, manage investments, work with companies as they go through. We still have a very small base of science and technology smart investors in the UK. And another little plug, so another one of our recommendations was to set up a fellowship. I did something called the Kaufman Fellowship back in the day, which was brilliant. There is now a new Science and Technology Venture Fellowship that's being run by the Royal Academy of Engineering and Imperial College. Anyone who's sort of interested in sort of the dark side of the industry, as it were, the investment side, it's a brilliant fellowship. I went and spoke at it quite recently, so take a look at that. So I think talent is probably the constraint. And that sort of ties to the second piece of the sort of how do we solve well, we wouldn't have started here. The way we solve that is we are increasingly involved upstream. So we hang out at ICURe. We have our own accelerators called Deep Tech Labs, where we spend a lot of time deeply integrated with the tech transfer offices. So several years before we're probably writing a Series A check, we're working with entrepreneurs and saying, that looks brilliant. And if you take it in that direction and go after that market, we've got a real thesis around that being something that you might not have thought about. You might have gone in that direction, but if you go in that direction, it's going to. So it's that level of engagement, which is quite hands-on, which is time-consuming, which goes back to the talent piece. But I think what we've learned is, unlike some other sectors, traditional venture capital, you think about people sitting behind, looking in their inbox and business plans coming in, and you just sort of saying, no, 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 yes. It's nothing like that. It's much more hands-on engagement and shaping, which is what makes it much more fun and interesting as well.
We're quite excited about the emergence of a number of partnered university funds around the country that could bring that, bring capital and expertise closer to the founders.
Yeah.
Set Square University, we're one of the groups looking at that with a really great venture capital fund partner. I guess from your experience of the supply side of capital, is there anything this community could do, of the ecosystem support to help those initiatives build momentum, attract more capital, given we've kind of got this connected group of, I guess, the investment product in a way that are really exciting for potential investors?
Yeah, that's a really, thank you for asking. It's a really good question. So from my perspective, and I've spent time with Duncan, who's running Northern Gritstone, the Context guys who are setting up in your region. My advice to them was you need to have a really robust pipeline of investment opportunities and hit the ground running with that. So you could think that, first thing to do is raise money, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to invest it in, once I've got some. That's the wrong way to do it. You need this pipeline of opportunities that evidence to global investors the amazing quality of opportunities that are there, and you sort of have to beg, borrow, and steal a little bit of early capital to get going on the investment business. That's how venture capital firms have historically always been built, is to show the opportunities and say, look, wouldn't it be great if we could do more of that, and you want some of that. So I think that plays perfectly to the message of this audience, that it's all about things like ICURe and these early stage programs that you're running at Set Squared that can provide a large funnel of attractive investable opportunities, along with a realistic filter that there's lots of great science that isn't a venture investable opportunity because it doesn't have the size of market, the capital efficient scalability that a 30% IRR investor requires. That doesn't mean it's not great technology and it can't be a great business, but it's a slightly different financing structure. And there's tax advantage funds and other ways of taking that forward, for example. But so yeah, if I could have my time again, and this is what I sort of said to Duncan when he was getting set up, is I would build that massive funnel, I would curate it and evidence it for the world. And I think that's exactly what's going on.